Yo, what's up, guys? It's PJ Swoop here with another vid. So in about 150 seconds, the Boston Celtics will win against the Milwaukee Bucks in Game 7 of the 2022 Eastern Conference Semifinals. Side note, the fact that either of these teams have to go on in the second round is pretty harsh, especially Giannis, the performance he had. He had 25 and 10 tonight, even though he struggled offensively. So, with this win, the Celtics are slated to play against the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals, so I want to preview this matchup. I'll be breaking this down into 4 categories. Those are the starting lineup/star power of each team, the depth of each team strength, and extra thoughts I might have. Along with this, I'll briefly mention each team's chance to actually win the finals this year against their possible opponents. Those opponents being the Warriors, who already beat the Memphis Grizzlies in 6 games, and either the Mavericks or Suns, who play Game 7 tonight. Alright, let's get started. I'll break down every position matchup based off their start lineup in each respective closeout game, that being Game 7 for the Celtics and Game 6 for the Heat. At point guard for the Miami Heat, we have Gabriel Vincent, and for the Boston Celtics, we have Marcus Smart. I think I'll give this one to Marcus Smart, and it isn't particularly close even though Gabe is quite underrated. Marcus is a much better defender than Vincent, although Gabe isn't a slouch either. He played a part in Trae Young having such a horrible playoff run. Gabe is the better three-point shooter between the two of them, but Marcus is a slightly better all-around scorer, just figuring out a way to get it in the bucket. Playmaking against Marcus, as he has recently taken a leap in that category, especially in this Bucks series. But Vincent can have high sense games. If you're like basketball, you know the difference between the two. So this gives the Celtics a 1-0 lead in the guard category. Now the shooting guard, Max Strus versus Jaylen Brown. This is not to be the most obvious advantage for the Celtics, giving them a 2-0 lead in the backcourt category and 2-0 overall as well. Brown is better at everything except three-point shooting. The only advantage I would give Strus is just not that much of an advantage. He doesn't have as bad tunnel vision as Jaylen Brown. It's not even close enough to make Strus relative to Brown as a player. Although the thing is about this is Jaylen just has the ball in his hand a lot more. He's such a better driver that Strus is not put in those same situations that Brown is put in. So it's kind of not fair to Brown because, he just has to do that because he's the ball handler and he's a scorer. But it is a weakness he does have, and it was shown in the Bucks series. Brown is a borderline all-star player, while Strus is, at best, a quality starter. Not to knock that because it's also almost impossible to do, but there are levels to this. However, Strus' exceptional three-point ability and just that dog that I'm going to get this dub in him gives the Heat something that lopsided guard battle. Now onto the small forward. Alright, now for small forward. This is definitely the hardest one to judge. It's the most controversial one as well. So in my opinion, during the regular season, Jimmy was clearly inferior to Jason Tatum. Although both were top 15, Jason just showed that he was better right now in the regular season. Then, the playoffs happened. Jimmy went insane against the Hawks and the Sixers, while JT swept the Nets, who were favourites to start of the year, and beat the Bucks in 7 games, albeit without Chris Middleton. Not his fault though. So let's break down what each does better. Jason is the better shooter, while Jimmy is the better finisher. All-around scoring go to Jason Tatum, while team and one-on the defense goes to Jimmy. While Jason got stepped up in his playmaking in the postseason, I would still give that edge to Jimmy Butler. Both are pretty clutch. Scoring 40 points in the playoffs shows this. And this is the few times I'll give a tie, but this is a tie. Rebounding again is pretty equal, but I give a slight edge to Jimmy. He's just tougher, although that's not always a great thing. It doesn't mean he's a better rebounder, but they both have good rebounding numbers. And Jason's rebound numbers look better because the Bucks are just so horrible from 3. So I don't know if he's a good rebounder or he's just tall, he gets the ball. Leadership and intangibles goes to Jimmy, although it isn't as lopsided as most people say. Feels weird having to say one of them is better than the other, but if I'm building a team to win right now, give me Jimmy the way he's playing. I want to give it a tie, but what's the fun in that? Next up is the power forward position. For the Miami Heat, we have PJ Tucker, and for the Boston Celtics, we have Batman. If you don't know who I'm talking about, his alter ego is Grant Williams. This is a pretty close contest. Both are exceptional three-point shooters who also play defense with occasional floater. Along with solid rebounding. Honestly, they're kind of like twin players in terms of role, both also being undersized power forwards. So let's get back into the lap to see who's better. Three-point shooting is close percentage-wise, but Grant takes them in a higher volume, so I'll give it to him. Driving is not part of either one of their games, but Grant's floater seems to be a little bit better. Playmaking, I'll give to PJ, although neither of them are good enough to be even considered for a tertiary playmaking role. Rebounding goes to PJ, even though it's close. Defense, which is the reason both of them get paid in the first place, goes to Grant, for now at least. I want to support this with some very stretched out logic, but here we go. Last season, Tucker was praised for slowing down KD, which is a completely different topic, but let's just say he did. In this year's playoffs, Grant's one of the people who slowed down KD, although it was a team effort, and Grant shut down Giannis in game 2 or 3, I don't remember which one, in this year's playoffs. So if you think that 2022 Giannis is better than 2021 KD, which by the way, you should definitely think that, you will give the edge to Grant and vice versa. Clutch is Grant since he got 27 freaking points in a closeout game against the Milwaukee Bucks. If you can't tell by now, I'm giving the edge to Batman, but PJ is in a far second. This brings the score to 3-1 Celtics. Now for the last starting category, the center position. For the Miami Heat, we have Bam Adebayo, and for the Boston Celtics, we have Al Horford. This is another one that isn't something I can quickly gloss over. Maybe in the regular season, you could say Bam over Horford with no second thought, but with the way Horford's been playing in this Bucks series, you have to question it. Horford is the clearly better shooter and all-around scorer, while Bam takes finishing and being a lob threat, which is quite important for playing center. Horford takes playmaking, but Bam isn't a horrible one. Defense, which is both their calling cards to the main reason for this debate in the first place, is the closest. Now, the simple take is Bam being better, and that can be the case, but let's examine this a bit. Bam is a better one-on-one defender. He's able to guard guards, wings, and bigs with pretty good efficiency. But Al slightly takes help in my opinion, although it is debatable. Bear with me here though. Since both win a category, we have to look at the difference in how much they win that category by. What I mean by this is, since Bam clearly wins one-on-one, while Al barely wins help, that means that Bam's a better defender, which is why I give defense to Bam. This is based off, what I'm saying. While both are very good, in all the advantages I gave Horford 2 overall, I still give Bam the edge of being a better player, making it 3-2 in the Celtics' favor. Now for depth, this one isn't particularly close in my opinion. This is the Heat, as you probably guessed when I said the top in the first place. Duncan Robinson, who's one of the best three-point shooters statistically in the league, hasn't played very much because he can't play defense. Although the Celtics did hunt Grayson Allen and Pat Connaughton, I feel like Duncan's going to get some more PT in this series than versus the Sixers. They also have Victor Oladipo, who's shown that he's pretty good. It was a big part in why they closed out Game 5 against the Hawks in the first place, with no Jimmy and no Kyle Lowry. Speaking of Kyle Lowry, depending on if he comes back, they have Gabe Vincent or Max Strus on the bench, giving them even more depth. Then they have Cody Martin, Tyler Hero, and Dwayne Dedmon. Tyler Hero won 6th Man of the Year. Cody Martin's a great defender. Dwayne Dedmon's a pretty good backup center. Not a leader. I'm not going to overplay. He's not like elite, but he's pretty good. While the Celtics do have Robert Williams that can come back, sending Grant Williams to the bench, only having Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, and Daniel Tice coming off the bench isn't something elite, and it doesn't compete with the Heat in my opinion. Although their bench was good enough to go against the Bucks bench, and integrating with the starting lineup makes it look okay since they're not playing all 3 and all 4 of the rotational bench pieces at the same time. They're just not better. Tyler Hero could start, Oladipo could start, Cody Martin could start on some teams because of his defense, although he's not an offensive threat. So I'll give that one to the Heat pretty obviously. I mentioned 3 at the start of the video, and the last of these being team strengths. Now this is a pretty good matchup because both teams are pretty defensively focused, which is why it's fun. Star power would go to the Celtics that have JT and JB. Although Bam and Jimmy are pretty good, they're not quite there. So I think Jimmy's better than Tatum, but Brown's better than Adebayo pretty clearly. The team strengths of the Celtics are defense. They're 3-point shooting. They live and die by the 3. Similar to the Warriors early on, but if the Celtics aren't hitting their 3s, they're done. If they are, you're done. Similar to the Heat, they kind of live and die by the 3. Although it doesn't really look like it if you looked at the roster, but they shoot a lot of 3s. This was shown in the Sixers series when they were cold from 3 in games 3 and 4. They lost pretty convincingly. They were on for 3 in games 1, 2. I don't remember if they were on for game 6, but I think they're on for game 5. They won those games pretty convincingly. So I think it depends on who's on which nights, who's going to win this game. Now, for I think to win the series, I think it's the Celtics in 6. I feel like I trust them more. I'm not going to get to the finals previews if I said so, but I don't believe either winner is going to come from the East in the first place. But thanks for watching this video, guys. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Share with your friends. Like the video, subscribe. Help me grow. We're trying to get this channel up. Appreciate you boys for watching, or girls, and have a good day.